All right, welcome back. Wave to the camera. Definitely edit that part out.
That was the cake.
It was too much.
Yeah.
I should have went with the pass it around. Do I have any frosting on my lips?
So you're gonna be zooming.
Okay, that was a brief overview. Now let's do it again, but slower. And you can write some notes if you want to.
On the Bendix.
Bendix, but which Bendix?
RSA.
RSA. RSA stands for really super awesome. All right, fuel injection systems. What?
Yeah, share the joke. We want to class.
No, of course not. All right, benefits. And this says slide 2. I have no idea what slide 2 happened, but no vapor icing. You guys that are, by guys I mean guys and gals, when you have run no vapor icing. Sorry, I have cake icing on me. When you run your carburetor on the ground power unit, have you grabbed that tube? It's very cold, all right? So because we have the latent heat of vaporization, the fuel is absorbing heat, which is making things cold. Well, with the fuel injection system, we're taking those fuel injector lines all the way out, and it's solid fuel right until the cylinder, right next to the intake valve, and it's spraying it right there. So we have no vapor icing. That cylinder's plenty hot. In theory, uniform delivery of fuel to each cylinder. Right? As opposed to my 0470, which has got 2 cylinders running at peak, 2 running lean at peak, and 2 running rich at peak. They're all over the place. This, we can get them all matched up. So they're all running at peak. They're all running lean at peak. They're all running rich at peak. They're all going to do what you want them to do. So that gives you improved control over the fuel air mix. I don't know. I copied this out of a book. We can be the judge. Easier maintenance. I don't know who wrote that. Carburetors are pretty simple. You really don't have to do much to them until it's time to do something. The RSA system has got a lot of diaphragms in it, but you don't have to do anything to it until you gotta. It's just fine. You put it on the engine, set it up. All you can adjust is idle, speed, idle, mix. Set idle, speed, idle, mix, and if that's good, you're good. The Continental system, I love it, especially as a mechanic, because they're maintenance pigs. If you really want to do them right, they got to be reset up every year, and that takes a couple hours. So they're a very complicated system with not a lot, 4 adjustments basically. But that's enough to really make your life miserable or rich. Yes. Again, these are out of a book, not my experience. Better acceleration. I don't know why there's no acceleration pump. I would think it would be, now it's just being redundant, increased engine efficiency. That I agree with. Because like I said, with mine, if I have 2 running, I don't know, if I have 2 running peak and 2 lean at peak, 2 rich at peak, those outer ones are going to average out to the middle ones, so it's all even, it's all good. And this is generic so far, so it's just fuel injection generic. So basic designs. It uses continuous fuel flow nozzles. Uses continuous flow nozzles. Flow. Continuous flow fuel nozzles located on each cylinder. Each cylinder intake. Now we'll contrast that. So we'll do a contrast. Contrast to. So we have continuous flow. It means they're spraying all the time. Should be a steady, even, constant spray. Valve is going to open, valve is going to close. Open, close. So when it's closed, technically they're just creating a puddle right there. And then when they open, you get puddle plus the squirt. Let's see. So contrast that to a timed injection, which we don't have. Rotax does now. Sort of. I have to go back and look at my notes. They're a little different. No, take it back. I was thinking of something else. It was the timing on that one. They actually fire spark plugs at a dead time. That's what I was thinking. So we only have the spark plug when it's supposed to go. Theirs go through 360. It also fires again. Doesn't matter. It's exhaust. Okay, timed injection. So Porsche, Mercedes, they had timed injection. Who else had it? You actually had an injection pump that you had to time it like a magneto. You'd find like the number one cylinder, put the cylinder was supposed to go, put the injector pump on, and it would pump and spray it at the exact time, but still before the intake valve. A lot of people use that. It's Porsche. You don't work on foreign stuff? All right. The Germans did, huh? Yeah. In fact, the Mercedes, the E-Class Mercedes, the E, the word for like fuel injection, it starts with an E, and that's how that came from it. Or direct injection. I-N-J-E-C-T-I-O. Again, this is in contrast to, this is not what we're talking about. So it's not timed injection and it's not direct injection. Direct injection would be timed injection taken a step further. Like I know I think most new cars do it. My last car had it, or and diesels have it, where you're actually timing an injection spray directly into the cylinder. Not that. So it's neither one of those. It is continuous flow. Nozzles are always going, no timing. Why do they do that? Because it works. All right, now we'll talk about specifically the Bendix RSA injection system. It is one of two popular injection systems, the other one being Continental. This particular one is used on Lycoming. That's not how they pronounce it back in Pennsylvania. Who knows? What? Lycoming. Which is funny though, because their promotional videos pronounces it Lycoming, I think. Similar to pressure carbs. And I don't think I need to write this. Well, I never know what you need to write. So, designed to deliver fuel in relation to the volume of air being consumed. Designed to deliver fuel in relation to the volume of air to, well, really that's any carburation device. All of them, including the Continental. It's designed to deliver fuel in relation to the volume of air being consumed. Volume of air being consumed. And of course, that's this. In this case, it's accomplished by using Venturi suction. And impact air. One book says that the Venturi measures pressure, while impact air measures volume. No, other way around. That would make more sense. Venturi would equal volume. Yeah, that works, volume. And impact air would measure pressure. So you have volume and pressure. Our main components. Everybody caught up, kind of? Main components. Well, we got the throttle valve. You know what that is. I hope you know what that is. That is the valve in the middle that opens and closes. We got to have that. We got to have the fuel servo. That is all this piece right here. Because when you look, it's only 3 pieces, all put together. I knew I was going to do that. That's fine. There you go. So we'll call it the fuel servo. So that is, well, everything but the flow divider and the nozzles. So throttle valve is right there sticking out. And then inside, I don't know why they label it out that way. Fuel servo, the flow divider, which is that right there. So fuel servo, flow divider. The injector nozzles. One per cylinder. Let's do the math. If you have a 4-cylinder engine, you're going to need how many? Oh, man, you guys are quick. What if it's a 6-cylinder?
4.
And last thing is the fuel pump. If you don't have a fuel pump, you don't have pressure. Fuel pumps. Always got to have 2. Got to boost in the main pump. I actually do numbers here. What do you know? See if it works. All right, operation. Well, like I said, similar to the pressure carb, Venturi and impact tubes create air metering force. So Venturi and impact. Oops, I'm sorry. That should be operation. And then I'm going to write that. Operation. Oops, I don't need to write that. Set it. Venturi and impact tubes. Impact tubes create air metering force. But AMF, air metering force, am I going to get away with that? 10 minutes from now, so go, what does AMF mean? 2. All right. Fuel nozzles are designed to operate at a proper pressure. Fuel nozzles are designed to operate at a proper pressure. Therefore, fuel control unit is designed to regulate the pressure. I'll just say fuel. Regulate pressure, not volume. But you get that. If the fuel control unit can give you the proper pressure, going out to an orifice, then you're automatically going to get the right volume. And kind of to expand on that thought, the fuel nozzle is designed to operate at proper pressure. I may write it later. I don't know. I hope. The fuel pressure is obviously a fixed orifice. You can't change it under any condition. So really that orifice only has an effect at its full operating pressure. And at that point, then it's kind of doing some regulating. But below that, it's not really going to. Let me see. Okay, example operation. Let's see how this works out. 1, 2, 3, 3. Example. Example operation. So air metering force, AMF, air metering force is what? Venturi suction plus impact pressure. Plus impact. Fuel metering force. Oh, I can just put FMF. Fuel metering force is
Metered and unmetered.
yep, unmetered minus metered. Because this, it's always that way. Unmetered is more. Okay. So this is going to be, we'll see how this works out. We'll go cruise to a little more power. All right. So assume, let's see. So we'll assume air metering force is 2. And that would be 2 to the right or 2 opening, right?
Yes.
Opening. And we could say 1 venturi
1 impact.
plus 1 impact. Right, we're just making up numbers here. All right. Fuel from the pump passes through. Remember in your head, the simple diagram? What's the first thing that the fuel saw as it came in?
Stream.
The servo. We're going to go a little beyond that. There you go. We'll go with this one here. First thing it saw was the mixture control, which we'll have in full rich, so we'll take that out of the picture. So the very next thing is the calibrated orifice. Very good. All right, so fuel for the fuel pump passes through. Let's see, which way we're going to head here. Through metering jet. Metering jet into, what chamber did I call that one?
Metered.
The metered, which we called it C or D.
D.
Yeah, we called it D. So into, I don't like that. Into metered. And passes through metering jet into metered. And not past the metering jet. Geez, it breaks off into 2, and this sentence doesn't work that way. Pass through metering jet into metered and bypasses metering jet into unmetered. There we go. So, well, that next sentence makes no sense. This page goes first. And we could say 5 unmetered and minus 3 metered equals 2. So everything's in equilibrium. So the forces are equal. That'll be 6, 7. Forces are, so AMF, and fuel metering force are equal. So poppet, or they don't call it the poppet, they call it the regulator servo. Poppet, P-O-P-P-E-T. So the poppet is held at a fixed position, is held at a fixed position with correct amount of fuel. Correct amount of fuel delivery. How you got, Daniel? You good? Okay. All right, so now we're going to open throttle. So open throttle. More. At one point I said wide open throttle, but that created problems. So we'll just say open throttle more. So what's going to happen to our AMF? So air metering force goes, okay, goes up because we have more impact pressure. We have more air flowing through the venturi, which created greater suction. So air metering force went up, and we'll say it's a 3. So we'll go 1.5 venturi and 1.5 impact. Not that it matters, but there we go. So it went up to a 3. And the regulator servo, it's called servo, moves. I don't want to say moves. It does opens or closes. Okay, opens. Opens more because you have more air metering force now. Opens more, which opens outlet. Outlet in metered. All right, opens up more, and if we didn't stop it, it would continue to open more, right?
Yes.
So somehow we got to equalize this all out. So, where am I here? Use the opening the outlet. So, C. I'm making this up as I go here. This causes a decrease in pressure of metered, decrease in pressure, I'll put in metered fuel, which we call D, right? So the poppet, the servo opens a little bit more, drain off some of that pressure. So now we got less pressure there, which we call D. Cause a decrease in pressure of metered fuel and an increase in fuel flow to I'm getting ahead of myself. Decrease pressure meter chamber, an increase in the, I'm going to be careful what I write, and an increase in differential pressure. Differential pressure across what?
C and D.
C and D is correct. We could say, what did we have before? 5 unmetered. All right, so we got 5 unmetered. Minus
3 was that, so
2.
2. Okay, 2 unmetered. Equals 3, which was good because we had 3 before. So now we're back in equilibrium. And the poppet stops moving. All right.
So the
Oh, sorry. Thanks.
So the equilibrium, which allows the poppet to stay open or closed, not closed, but open at a certain point, continuous. That's just to keep keep the fuel, the same amount of fuel for the RPMs needed.
I think you got it. Say it again.
So the reason why we want the poppet to be continuous open, like the equilibrium of the numbers we're talking about, is to keep the fuel flow to the nozzles constant.
Not constant per se.
Okay.
But we could look at it this way. Let's see. This drawing is a little bigger. So we could say, well, the poppet at right here is going to be 25% power. And it's got to be right here for 50% power. It's got to be right here for 75% power. It's got to be right. Of course, the drawing is wrong. 100% power. So it's got to open that much each time. Well, how do you get it to open just that much? Well, I suppose they could have just ran a rod from this the throttle to right here and hope that it worked, because it does kind of work at idle. But you know, that doesn't compensate for altitude changes very well, or density altitude, where this kind of does a little bit. So it's a little more exacting. So what they did is, of course, all of this monkey motion, so that at idle it's here, 25%, 50%, 75. You know, it just opens up a little, and then you back down. It's going to close a little bit. So that's the important point to know, that it has to move and stop, move and stop, move and stop, move and stop, move and stop. It's not just all or nothing. All right, I have a bunch of stuff here I probably don't need to write. Let's see. But I'll do this so that you go, what happened to all that? So what happens when throttle closes? What happens when throttle is closed? Well, we can go back and look what happens when the throttle's closed. When the throttle's closed, then the air metering force goes down, which causes the poppet to close, which causes the differential between metered and unmetered to go. That's a bad way of asking. So the differential is going to be, more or less. It's going to be less. The differential, the difference between what you just said, the difference between this one and this one is going to be less. So if the difference is less, then the whole fuel metering force gets a lower number, which is great, because a second ago, air metering force got a lower number. So it all works out. We can just kind of think about some stuff here, some exercises. Let's see. What would happen if the metering jet is removed? Let's just take it out and try it, see what happens. You guys are getting it. C and D are equal. So if C and D are equal, then fuel metering force is 0.
No difference.
And so the poppet valve would
Stay open.
not stay open, but go wide open.
Go wide open.
Yeah, because it's always open,
True.
right? Okay. Okay, what happens if we made that metering jet really, really tiny?
Differential pressure would be higher.
Significant.
Would be too high, which would cause the poppet valve to be closed more than it should, and the engine would run clean if it ran at all. And you can also look at another way. Well, you can just take just the metering jet all on its own and go, well, if I made the metering jet too small, it'd run lean. If I made the metering jet too big, it runs rich. But it runs rich and lean because of some weird reasons. As RPM increases, spring is compressed into the housing that affect. Oh, that's just not even the right page yet. Okay, we're on this page now. Okay. I just asked all those questions. Okay. What happens if the metering jet's a little bit bigger? Okay. What happens if the impact tube system is plugged?
Less.
AMF goes down. So the carburetor runs. Okay, that's a little bit. It's like a two-step thought process. This becomes plugged. This opens up. So we need more. But this is saying we have less Therefore, we're going to run lean.
Lean, yeah.
Air metering force went down, but the demand went up. So, not good. This is possible. What happens if fuel leaks into the air chamber? You get a bad seal right there. There's a song like that. You blew a seal. I'll leave it at that. So we get a bad seal right here.
Get more pressure, your air meter force, but
Your
less
AMF
fuel.
is gonna go down because the volume of that chamber changes due to the fluid.
We're just gonna go leaks. Drip, drip, drip. So, is that going to really have an effect on the forces? I don't think it will, because the fuel pump's going to overcome that drip, drip, drip. But you're going to get drip, drip, drip in here. So this tends to get some fuel in it. And then when you shut down the engine,
Will you notice fuel dripping out of?
you see it. You see it shut down.
Okay.
Yeah. I do think a little bit. It's possible it goes there anyway, so it's not that big a deal. Let me see. If it got into this side, that's a whole nother animal because now it's being sucked out this way. And that'd be like having a primer open when you're trying to adjust a carburetor and it's going to run real rich. Let's see. However, if you had a really big leak right here, then you're going to get fuel out this way and it's going to run really rich. So yeah, you could run rich. So anytime you get we'll say a break over here, you're going to run rich simply because the fuel is going to get out into where it shouldn't be and starting to run rich. Possible loss of idle cutoff is what actually Lycoming says. You go to idle cutoff, but you still have fuel, can find its way through and it continues to run. Just like when you leave the primer unlocked on the ground power unit. Who is that I did that with? We put it in idle cutoff, and it ran and ran and ran. I don't remember if that was something you guys did on purpose or I just experimented. But I took a Marvel Chevrolet carburetor, and I opened up the primer line, and I pulled it to idle cutoff, and it just kept on running.
Ours was like that. We put it all the way back down, but the knob at the end wasn't fully locked, and so it just kept going.
Yeah, but then I decided to see just how well it would run. It ran just fine. Running off the primer. Oh. All right. I have important points. Fuel flow to engine is a function of jet size and pressure differentiated across jet. I think we covered that. Then I crossed this point out. The servo does not meter fuel. It only controls the pressure differential across it. Why would I cross that out? The servo does not meter fuel. It only controls the pressure differential across it.
Is that the same thing as saying measuring airflow?
Nah, it's all about fuel. I just hate it.
Hello there, buddy.
Big boss is good now.
It's just second year guys.
Oh, at least he's gone. The servo poppet doesn't. I don't know. I just don't like it for a lot of reasons. Because if I said the servo doesn't meter fuel, it only controls the pressure. Well, they say, oh, it's just controlling pressure. Well, no, it's really controlling the amount of fuel that flows out of here, isn't it? So I wouldn't write that because then you'd look at it and go, well, so it's not controlling the fuel flow? It is through pressure. So I got that out. All right, idle circuit. That's all there is to that. So we go to idle circuit. Take a fresh page over here. F. Idle circuit. Idle circuit. All right, as with pressure carb. As with pressure carb. Air metering force is not enough at idle. So, two springs are installed on either side of the air diaphragm One is called the constant head. That's your cue. Constant head, idle spring. Not just the constant head spring. You got to throw the word idle in. Otherwise, it's just CHIS. The CHI. I've never did that before, but I was hoping it spelled something funny. CHIS. Constant head idle spring. And let's just verify my notes because I think I thought that was wrong, but I think I'm right. All right, so constant head idle spring. We'll go over here. There we go. Constant head idle spring. That is in the rightmost chamber, just to make sure I get this right. And that's not what I wanted to do. All the way to the right. All the way to the right is the
Rightmost chamber. CH.
the Venturi. So that put it in the Venturi. That's what I said.
Doesn't that one put it in the impact?
They're not labeling it. Oh, they are constant head. It does.
Second one.
I don't like that. Let's try this one more time. This one puts it here. The drawings do not agree with each other. So this would be D, C, B, A, the far right, the one in the middle, the one in the, what's that? It's, trust me, it's not a Continental. Once you see Continental, you're like, yeah, there's no way.
Yeah, the idle is closer towards the.
Yeah, they put it right here. They put it in the Venturi. This is showing it here and calling it a, yeah, but this one's going to be the constant
It's actually around,
effort spring here.
It's around the circle.
So Bravo. Alpha
And this
Bravo.
one shows that it's sitting in the field.
Yeah. No. So fuel is, so this would be D, C, B, A, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know. It's, they didn't finish drawing it out over here, which makes it a little difficult. But I would trust this drawing more because of the way the detail is of it. So B right here, just to make sure we're doing it right. If we follow this one here, B is impact. Yeah? Impact. So B, this one is impact. And this right here is Venturi. And I said constant head idle spring is in the Venturi air chamber. Then at one point I crossed out Venturi, wrote impact, then I erased impact, and because of that other drawing. So according to this one, it is there. But you know what? It's not that important where it is, because if you're going to take it apart and work on it, you'll figure it out when you get there, and you'll have the overhaul manual and tell you exactly where it goes. So we'll just say the constant head idle spring. We'll put it in the Venturi, whatever. I don't mind. Constant idle spring. Chris is in the Venturi chamber. Where it is not as important, but it helps add AMF, air metering force, at low RPM. In other words, it helps keeps the ball off the seat. Keeps ball off seat at idle.
The ball, is that like another word for the servo?
Servo ball, yep.
Yeah, okay.
For your sake, I won't write this. As RPM increases, the spring is compressed into a housing. You can see it's compressed into a housing. that effectively keeps spring from adding additional force. So it gets so much force, and it's kind of, when this piece right here, right there, hits right there, then the spring is out of play. Follow? So we get enough force, the spring now is out of play. Let me see. Constant head idle spring pushes onto servo shaft.
Unlike a pressure card with the spring is always adding.
Yeah, I could say that the spring is always, spring's got a spring, and so it's going to be there pushing. But once these two are together, it pushes direct on that housing.
And they're together at higher RPM.
So at higher RPM, they'll be married together until you go back to idle. Then it'll separate, and that'll push out a little bit. So when I would say this wants to back off,
At lower RPM.
yeah,
What is that third spring sitting in the fuel area?
this right here,
No.
not a spring. This one
To the left more.
here,
Yep.
don't exactly know. They got springs all over the damn place. I can't even tell you what it is.
Okay.
1880 bid.
Yeah, obviously it's pushing on something. All right, but the other spring that is given to us is the constant effort spring in the impact air chamber. That is correct. Supplements and transitions from idle to servo regulator control, and spring helps move the air diaphragm smoothly from low to high power settings. So I will write that.
That reminds me of the accelerator pump.
Yeah, same concept. 1, 2. So that's a constant effort spring. Constant effort spring in impact air chamber. Supplements the transition from idle to servo regulator control. That's good enough. That gets the point across. All right, so on the side of the carburetor, what are the two things you can adjust? Idle speed and idle mixture. How do you know if the idle mixture is correct?
50 RPM rise and then dies.
Where have we heard that before? Carburetors, pressure carburetors, everything but the Stromberg. Everything but the Stromberg that I'm aware of. Put it in idle, pull back the mixture control. You should see a rise of about 25, 50 RPM, and then it dies. All right, that's how you do it. And idle speed is always just a stop screw. So this right there is the idle speed adjustment. You can see it right there. It's just a screw. You screw it in more, it opens the butterfly a little bit more. This is it's easy, but it's different looking right here. And also there's a little spring that goes across it like that. And that spring just holds this in place because it's the wheel looks like this as it goes around. And the spring actually goes in one of these notches and just kind of holds it in place. That's all that spring is. So when you want to adjust that, just lift the spring a little bit and just turn this. And right there, it says, you can see it. It says R with an arrow pointing that way. So if I turn this that way, it's going to make it richer. And if I go the other way, it'll make it leaner. And the way it works is these threads are different sizes. And when you turn it, it separates these two shafts or brings them together. So in effect, it shortens them and lengthens the shafts because of the difference in thread. setting that up, if you accidentally turned it out too far and it came out, you have to reset it up according to a thing called the master clevis list. So you're going to hear that word, the master clevis. It's all about resetting that up if you screw up. Don't screw up. And if you shouldn't be turning it that far. If you're turning it that far, you got another problem. So 1 or 2 bumps ought to take care of the issue.
Those are left and right hand threads,
Don't go into that.
Mm-hmm.
like a tie rod.
Yeah.
It is. Or a turnbuckle.
Yeah.
But I think one side's coarse and one side's fine too. Just to really screw with you. I don't know. So, but right, left.
So you can go backwards.
Yeah.
Give the mechanic that extra hint.
Yeah. All right. So there we go. We got that. And the next thing I'm going to talk, I'll write it tomorrow. Enrichment system. Some engines use an enrichment jet parallel to the main jet, and this shows that. So right there, we've got, should have enrichment jet right there. So this is just a little, it's like the Stromberg, but this is all fuel. So you can see at the idle position that, it's kind of a terrible drawing. Everything is closed except right there you have a little tiny orifice that's actually in play. And then as we go into cruise, that orifice now is this slid over. Now you can see how it was just that little tiny cutout.
Okay.
That little tiny cutout was over that, allowing just that much fuel out before right there. Okay, so now we've gone on to cruise, and this is opened up, and so our main metering jet is full open, and we're running on the main metering jet. And then if we open a little bit more, now you can see how this was cut out like that. We'll open up another jet, so you have 2 jets, and that would be your power enrichment jet right there. So I'll write that tomorrow. Some engines use enrichment jet parallel to the main jet. Looks like that. As throttle's open, enrichment jet is open, allowing more fuel to flow to the flow divider. So I think that's about it for tonight.